Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yashodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama, Hare. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Paramahamsa. Acharya Ashtottara to Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Acharya Ashtottara to Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to the assembled devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Is he set up? We're on page 402. Yeah. You got it? All right. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 23rd day of March, 2021 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in Chapter 9, The Most Confidential Knowledge, text 22, page 402. Ananyash Chintayanto Mam Ye Jana Payupasate Tesham Nityabhayuktanam Yogakshemam Mahamyaham Ananyaschintayanto Mam Ye Jana Payupasate Tesham Nityabhayuktanam Yogakshemam Mahamyaham Ananyaschintayanto Mam Ye Jana Payupasate Tesham Nityabhayuktanam Yogakshemam Mahamyaham Ananyaschintayanto Mam Ye Jana Payupasate Tesham Nityabhayuktanam Yogakshemam Mahamyaham. Go ahead, Alex. Ananyaschintayanto Mam Ye Jana Payupasate Tesham Nityabhayuktanam Yogakshemam Mahamyaham. Ananyaschintayanto Mam Ye Jana Payupasate Tesham Nityabhayuktanam Yogakshemam Mahamyaham. Ananyaschintayanto Mam Ye Jana Payupasate Tesham Nityabhayuktanam Yogakshemam Mahamyaham. Ananyaschintayanto Mam Ye Jana Payupasate Tesham Nityabhayuktanam Yogakshemam Mahamyaham. Ananya, having no other object. Chintayantaha, concentrating. Mam, on me. Ye, those who. Janaha, persons. Payupasate, properly worship. Tesham, of them. Nitya, always. Abhayuktanam, fixed in devotion. Yoga, requirements. Chemam, protection. Bahami, carry. Aham, I. Translation. But those who always worship me with exclusive devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack, and I preserve what they have. Purport. One who is unable to live for a moment without Krishna consciousness cannot but think of Krishna 24 hours a day. Being engaged in devotional service by hearing, chanting, remembering, offering prayers, worshipping, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, rendering other services, cultivating friendship, and surrendering fully to the Lord. Such activities are all auspicious and full of spiritual potencies, which make the devotee perfect in self-realization, so that his only desire is to achieve the association of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such a devotee undoubtedly approaches the Lord without difficulty. This is called yoga. By the mercy of the Lord, such a devotee never comes back to this material condition of life. Kshema refers to the merciful protection of the Lord. The Lord helps the devotee to achieve Krishna consciousness by yoga, and when he becomes fully Krishna conscious, the Lord protects him from falling down to a miserable, conditioned life. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisances unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So once again, let's look at the context. The previous two verses, Krishna has described those who worship him directly, really with the motive of going to the heavenly planets. They drink the soma juice in text 20. And if they do everything right, then they go to the heavenly planets. And text 21, when they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. And this comes after he speaks about after he talks about the Mahatmas, those who are worshipping him constantly, Satatam Kirtiyanto Mam, in contrast to the Asuras who deride Krishna when he appears in the human form. Then there are others who aren't pure devotees, always chanting my glories. No, they engage in sacrifice by cultivation of knowledge, worship of the Supreme Lord as one without a second, diverse in many, the universal form. And then Krishna describes how he is all the things that they're doing, that they use in this worship. I am the fire, the sacrifice, the offering, the butter. It's all me. So if you're not doing it to please me, then you're using my facilities for worshiping something that's other me. So you're off base. The Father of the universe, Gati Bharta, I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, so forth. And then he describes, after a couple of verses, those who are deluded by the three Vedas, they want to go up to the heavenly planets, but then they come back down again, so they don't really make any progress. And then he gives the verse tonight, which is by contrast back to the point of pure devotion. Ananyas, a very important word. It means without deviation, without other thoughts. Chintayanto Mam, thinking of me constantly. Thus worshipping me completely, pariyapasate, always linked to me, nityabhyuktanam. Then I personally carry what they need for maintenance and for serving me, and I protect yoga kshemam. Bahami, I personally do it. So Prabhupada, describes this is the way of approaching Krishna, perfect way of approaching Krishna. And don't forget, the whole chapter is the most confidential knowledge. It's showing by different angles why pure devotion is the ultimate sadhana. And the end of the chapter, is going to give this famous verse that's repeated in the 18th chapter. Manmana bhavamad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru. That's a simple formula for going back to Godhead. Of course, it's not easy. It's not so easy to come to the point of always thinking of Krishna. And therefore we have all the principles of devotion. Bhavamad bhakta, what does it mean to become, Krishna, practice devotional service. But it's constantly coming back to the same theme, and that's what we're going to hear about for the rest of the chapter. Okay, so should we go on? All right. Again, he's going to criticize worshipping other devatas. Ye pyanya devata bhakta yajante shaddayanvitaha tepi mamiva kunteya yajant avidipurvakam. Those who are devotees of other gods and who worship them with faith actually worship only me, O son of Kunti, but they do so in a wrong way. Purport, quote, persons who are engaged in the worship of demigods are not very intelligent, although such worship is offered to me indirectly, Krishna says. For example, when a man pours water on the leaves and branches of a tree without pouring water on the root, he does so without sufficient knowledge or without observing regulative principles. Similarly, the process of rendering service to different parts of the body is to supply food to the stomach. The demigods are, so to speak, different officers and directors in the government of the Supreme Lord. One has to follow the laws made by the government. not by the officers or directors. Similarly, everyone is to offer his worship to the Supreme Lord only. That will automatically satisfy the different officers and directors of the Lord. The officers and directors are engaged as representatives of the government, and to offer some bribe to the officers and directors is illegal. This is stated here as avidi purvakam. In other words, Krishna does not approve the unnecessary worship of the demigods. So one word to focus on here is the word avidi, as Prabhupada did, avidi purvakam. That word vidhi is sometimes given as a name for Brahma, because he knows all of the rules and regulations, you see. And we're trying to practice Vaidhi Bhakti, which means bhakti according to the rules and regulations as they've been handed down. As it so famously says, we offer every day, Gauravani Pacharine. Prabhupada is giving the words of Lord Chaitanya, and thus delivering Western lands and all lands. He wrote that when he was sitting in 26 Second Avenue, but of course it's all lands, but that's the mantra. So those Vaidhis are so important. We have to know the regulations, the do's and the don'ts. The do's and the don'ts. And so we've been given all these books and so many lectures by Prabhupada, and it's come down. There's no question of what we should do. It's a question of us finding out what we should do and then actually doing it, and refraining from those things we shouldn't. So when one worships the demigods, Prabhupada gives this analogy of watering the leaves and branches of a tree. This comes directly from a verse, a famous verse. I forget who spoke this. I think Prahlad. Devashi bhutaptan hrinam patrinam naking karo nayam hrini charajan. Savatmana yak shadanam shadamyam. I'm sorry. No, that's not right. Devashi bhutapta hrinam patrinam naking karo nayam hrini charajan. Savatmana shadanam shadanam. Yeah. Gato mukundam padiditi kartam. I'm sorry, I had it right. So what this verse is saying is that when we come into this world, we're actually debtors. Even without desiring to be debtors, we are debtors. And it gives a list. Devas, the rishis, the beings in general, human beings and also animals, Bhuta, Apta, the previous ancestors, Nrinam, people in general, Patrinam, the ancestors. So we're rini. Rini means debtors. And you can understand how, I remember when I was in grade school. I remember in 8th grade. Because after 8th grade, of course, the kids, they would graduate and they'd go to high school. But many of them, you would see, they would come back to visit the 8th grade teacher and sit there and say, oh, I remember how nice it was in your class, and like that. There was some sense of gratefulness there to the teachers. And that's really, we don't even understand. We don't even understand usually how much of course we understand our debt to Srila Prabhupada. But he's always telling us he's just getting it from the previous acharyas. And of course it's all coming from Krishna. So the devas who are providing the sun and the air, right? We have Surya, we have Vayu, we have Varuna, and there's Bhumi, there's gods and goddesses for all of the things that we use that sustain our life. So that we're debtors. And people in general, we depend on so many people who do things, and our parents and everything. So we're born debtors and we continue to be debtors. And if we don't liquidate that debt, then that's sinful. And therefore the idea of sacrifice and worshiping the demigods is there. But this verse says that if you surrender unto Mukunda, then all the debts are consolidated. Just like I've lived all this lifetime, and I've never been in debt. Which I understand is like a huge boon, right? I mean, these poor kids, they go into school, they work so hard getting into the best school, and then when and then they take these courses, and they inevitably come out, almost all of them, with some debt. I don't know if you guys had some debt. But sometimes it's overburdening. It's like $25,000, $50,000, $60,000, $100,000. And the idea is, well, okay, now I can get a job and pay it off. but the jobs aren't there. Not the jobs that can pay off the debt. So now that 10 years later, and it's accruing interest in it. It's a huge. It's a big. What do you call it? A con. So, but when we I'll tell you a story. A friend of mine, Gopi Puranadana Prabhu. He went to school and he incurred some debt. It wasn't that, this was back in the late 60s. So it wasn't so much, but he was in Hare Krishnas. He joined Hare Krishna. He didn't pay it off, so he was gradually accruing debt. But if they ever found him, he said, I don't have any money, so what can I do? But then at a certain point he got married and he got a job. He got a job because he was a brilliant computer programmer also, and people don't know that. And so as soon as he got a job and he was plugged into the IRS, he says, we see you. The government, the college came after him. We know where you are. Oh God. Luckily the BBT paid off its debt, because they needed him, But it's just like that. And we don't recognize the debts we incur, but it's a sin not to pay them. But you can consolidate all that debt. If you have a lot of different credit cards, right? Sometimes to make it easy, you consolidate it, you just make one payment every month, So if you surrender to Krishna and you simply work for him, he's in charge of all those gods who you owe to, So then it's all liquidated. And another one that is pertinent here is yata taromula nishecharena Tripyanti tatskanda bhujo pashaka prano bahara chayatendriyaram tataiva sara ahanam achyuteja. So it's a classic example. First, how do you water a tree? You don't get up there and try to water each branch and leaf, It's impossible. It's not the way. Even if you do it, it won't work. It's not gonna. If you just water the root, then the nourishment goes, So the trees are sometimes called pada. What is it? Padapa. They drink through their feet. They're being nourished through their feet. Padapa. And the same way, if you eat, you're feeding the stomach, and then the energy gets separated, gets distributed. So if you try to worship the demigod separately, that's a vidipurvakam. It's not the proper way to worship Krishna. And it's foolish. So that's what's being spoken of here. And Prabhupada gives what Krishna is really saying here. They're not very intelligent, although Krishna doesn't say that in the verse. That's the implication, So text 24. Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha bhavareva cha natamam abhijananti tattvenatas chavanti te. I am the only enjoyer and master of all sacrifices. Therefore, those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. Purport. Here it is clearly stated that there are many types of yajna performances recommended in the Vedic literatures. But actually, all of them are meant for satisfying the Supreme Lord. Yajna means Vishnu. In the 3rd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly stated that one should only work for satisfying Yajna or Vishnu. The perfectional form of human civilization, known as Varnashram Dharma, is specifically meant for satisfying Vishnu. Therefore, Krishna says in this verse, I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices because I am the Supreme Master. Less intelligent persons, however, without knowing this fact, worship demigods for temporary benefit. Therefore, they fall down to material existence and do not achieve the desired goal of life. If, however, anyone has any material desire to be fulfilled, he had better pray for it to the Supreme Lord, although that is not pure devotion, and he will thus achieve the desired result. So, Prabhupada refers to the 3rd chapter, Yagyartart kamanonyatra loko yam karma bandhanaha. This is verse 9 of the 3rd chapter. Work has to be done as a sacrifice for Vishnu. Otherwise, whatever work you're doing is binding you to this material world. So that's what's being explained here. Then also, this verse reminds us, I think I shared this with you last night, the peace formula. Bhoktaram Yagyatapasam Sarvaloka Maheshwaram Suridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatmamam Shantam Richati. Those who understand that I am, Krishna says that I am the enjoyer of all sacrifices, that I am the Lord of all worlds, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, that I am the most intimate, well-wishing friend of every living entity, they attain real peace. Now, why is that they attain so much peace? Because with that mentality, you can cultivate the mood of desirelessness. If you understand Krishna is the enjoyer of the sacrifice and you work for him, and you perform the sacrifice of the age, which is Sankirtan Yajna. Thank you. That comes up so much in chapter 3, probably in the purport. Then you're developing love for Krishna. So it's one thing to sacrifice for the pleasure of your boss, to pay the IRS, because you have to, otherwise you get arrested or whatever, or lose your job. And it's another thing to be sacrificing and then for someone you love. That's a natural thing in family life. The husband goes out, he fights the traffic, he slaves, comes back, brings the paycheck, and he's able to sustain the family, because there's a bondage of love there. So that's the whole idea in Krishna consciousness. We sacrifice for Krishna, but at the same time, an important part of that sacrifice is chanting his glories, thinking about him, meditating on him, seeing his form, serving him, glorifying him, and that awakens our natural love for Krishna. And then it becomes not so much a sacrifice as an act of love, and that's indicative of pure devotion and satisfaction. And so that is why the peace formula has all of these elements: understanding Krishna's sacrifice and recognizing him as the best friend, because that meets Lord Chaitanya's formula for who could be really peaceful. This is an important verse. It's in Bengali. Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ata Eva Shanta Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sukaliya Shanta. There are basically 4 categories of human beings. The vast majority are what is it? Bhukti Kamis. Bhukti Kami. A Kami is you desire something, and it describes what you desire. Bhukti means material enjoyment, gross and subtle. And such a person can never be peaceful, because there's 2 things that happen. One is you don't get what you're striving for, and the other is you do get what you're striving for, and both of them make you unhappy. Because as soon as you get what you're striving for, you realize it's really not what I thought. It doesn't give me the unending bliss that I'd hoped. Whether it's a movie you go to or some person you get hooked up with. Because the happiness is actually very flickering. It comes, and then you're thinking about it, and then you have it, then you're thinking about having had it, and it doesn't satisfy. So you can't be peaceful. There's no question of being peaceful. So then those who understand that, but aren't bhaktas, then they desire something else. Mukti kamis, liberation. We want to get out of the whole thing, I don't want to form, because all I know is the form is this form, and this form, is a source of misery. So you try to merge, but ultimately that's a selfish desire. If your only desire is to get free of suffering, that's totally selfish. There's nothing ultimately spiritual about it. It's going on in so many ways all over the world. Some poor, homeless guy in the street, where I live, there's always a new batch coming. As soon as the weather gets a little warmer, which it's getting now, there's going to be an encampment right outside. And you see these poor people, one guy's trying to set up a little, tent-like thing, so he can live and protect his little basket full of belongings. That's all he's got, It's just so disturbing existence, So, but that's a metaphor. That's also a species of bhukti kamis, because the karmas come crashing down on such persons, when they're suffering presently. But it's going to come back. Who was it who mentioned? I think Rajendranand, he saw, David Rockefeller. He died at 102 years old. This is now 4 years ago already. I looked it up and Googled. And this guy, I don't know. He was hooked up into so many international schemes and $billion things. All kinds of sin on his head. There's no way that he went up to a heavenly planet. So what did he get for all that? He was born into it. And he always had wealth, and he increased the wealth, and he used it to manipulate political things. And oh my God, In other words, it's just more and more entanglement and suffering. So the bhukti kamis, even the mukti kamis, and then there's the siddhi kamis, the yogis who try to get the powers, And we have so many examples in the Shastra. I mean, Durvasa Muni, he's not happy. He's always he's envious of Ambarish, and this one and that one. And Durvasa means, what Durvasa means? I don't know if I always thought it meant that his clothes were far away and then he was naked. But that was just my own speculation. That's not what it means. That would be Durvesha or something. Anyway, it means you can't live with him. Durvasa. It's impossible to live with him, I mean, imagine being so prickly and so, That means he's not happy. So anyway, but the devotees, if you really advance in devotion, you become niskinchana. You don't want anything. You don't pretend to have anything separate from Krishna. You're completely from the morning, the instant you wake up to the instant you take rest, serving Krishna, thinking of Krishna, experiencing new varieties of transcendental pleasure, as Prabhupada showed. And that's real peace. Even in the greatest danger, you can remain peaceful. Great devotees like Prahlad, and others, even modern days, we saw Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati face down. So many threats to his life. So did Srila Prabhupada. There were several threats to kill him, I don't know if you know, the Naxalites, the story? So, Prabhupada didn't flinch, and he remained serene. That's real wealth, that's real strength in this world. So they're real peaceful, and because they understand these teachings of Bhagavad Gita. All right, I want to stop now because I want to share something with you. It is Gaur Purnima coming up. And so tomorrow's my class. I'm going to tell the story, coming attractions of little baby Nimai and the Brahmin who comes to visit, and he keeps eating the rice that he's offering. One of my all-time favorite stories. So I read that. I was going to do that tonight, but I'll save that for tomorrow. But here's a little poem in the Stavamala, which is Rupa Goswami's anthology of many of his works. At the beginning, there's 3 Chaitanyashtakas. There's 3 series of 8 verses about Lord Chaitanya, and I discovered these back in 1978, and I memorized a bunch of them. And so when I was in my poetry writing phase, I haven't been writing too much new stuff lately, but I put the third one into a poem, English poem. So I'm going to do the first verse in Sanskrit, and then I'll just do all the rest English, so you can appreciate it. I think we have time. Okay, so here's the way the Sanskrit goes. Upasata padam buddhas tramanodakta rudradibi papadda purushottamam padamadabhramud brajitaha samastanata mangali spudada bishtakalpa dhruvam shati sutamahi prabho kudamukunda mande kripam. So this is by Rupa Goswami. And of course he didn't experience directly Lord Chaitanya's early Leela, Adi Leela. So it's all about Lord Chaitanya in Jagannath Puri, his experience. Your lotus feet are worshipped by the multitude of gods, beginning with Lord Shiva, in whose heart devotion throbs. You've made Lord Jagannath's great city by the sea your home, and there you shine with splendor, as in ecstasy you roam. For all your loving devotees who beam like many moons, you are a wish-fulfilling tree, bestowing endless boons. Oh, come on. Oh, boy. O Lord Chaitanya, Shri Mukunda Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. This is why I was attracted to do this one, because that last line, I can relate to that. Sripad Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya never finds the limits of your glories, what to speak of lesser minds. Even Lord Ananta and your other incarnations find the power to extol you, fraught with limitations. Your vast intelligence will surely never know defeat. I humbly bow before you and most earnestly entreat, O Lord Chaitanya, Sri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. The glorious Upanishads had kept the secret sealed. By them the gem of pure devotion never was revealed. Nor did your most exalted incarnation show that jewel, for only you yourself could bring about the great renewal of Krishna Bhakti. And behold, you've reached your lotus hand into the nectar sea and cast the gem upon this land. O Lord Chaitanya, Shri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. Overwhelmed with love of Krishna, who is none but you, you dance ecstatically, astounding three-eyed Lord Shambhu. To all your humble devotees you gladly manifest the nectar of devotion. They feel infinitely blessed. The proud and egotistical can never know your glories. To them accounts of your great deeds are just so many stories. O Lord Chaitanya, Shri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. Even low-born sinful souls entrapped in Kali's age, suffering uncounted pains that no one can assuage, are instantly delivered when you kindly seek them out and flood them with your splendid mercy, making bhakti sprout. And so with heart rejoicing at your mercy's endless store, I take full shelter of your lotus feet and then implore, O Lord Chaitanya, Shri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. Trickling from your lotus mouth, the honey nectar stream of your pure words enlightens all and showers bliss supreme upon the humble bumblebees who are your devotees. What use to them are dry philosophies, austerities? You are an ocean full of gems, the holy names which bless all people on this planet with supreme auspiciousness. O Lord Chaitanya, Shri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. The beauty of your face defeats the full moon's soothing glow. From full-blown lotus petal eyes your loving glances flow. By clusters of your gentle smiles your lovely lips are graced. Your chest is broad, your arms are like two glorious upraised snakes. Your handsome form defeats 100 million Kamadevs. And best of all, your mercy floods this world in endless waves. O Lord Chaitanya, Shri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. O Lord, whose splendor calls to mind the golden daffodil, I am the lowest sinner in this world of sinners. Still, you overlook the faults of one whose faults are like an ocean, and bless him with the strength to practice unalloyed devotion. With this in mind, O Lord, who are most kind to fallen souls, I ask you with a humble heart, devoid of mundane goals. O Lord Chaitanya, Shri Mukunda, Shachi's precious jewel, please shower your compassion on this wretched, stubborn fool. So that was the Ashtaka. Then there's one blessing verse. O festival of happiness for all this world of woe, O Lord, who caused the joy in Shachi's heart to overflow, O fulgent moon whose glow is your unending spotless fame, O Bhagavan whose mission is to spread your holy name, O Sri Chaitanya Chandra, kindly grant this one request. May those who read these verses, feeling purified and blessed, while deeply contemplating your exquisite lotus feet, attain pure love for you and make their blessed lives complete. Hare Krishna. So Bhakta Michael, he wanted me to publish a book with my poems in it. And he said, well, do you have it printed? You know? So I said, I'd send him the file. That goes for everybody. Just send me your email or text me, or text any devotee you have in the temple, and I'll send you my poetry. We still have a few minutes. A few more? Is that okay? Okay. So, I know Lord Chaitanya, hopefully he was somewhat pleased with this, but I want to also share with you, because I know he'll be pleased with this one. Nityananashtaka. There's stuff about Lord Chaitanya in here also, of course. So this one goes like this. Sarachandra Brantim Spudadamalakantim Gajakatim Hari Premon Mattam Jatapadama Sattvam Smitamukham Sadago nannetram katakalita vetram kalibadham bhaje nityanandam bhajanata dukhandan nidavadhi. Beside the splendor of his golden form and smiling face, the splendor of the autumn moon appears most commonplace. Because he's mad with love of God, though he's God in disguise. He walks just like a drunken elephant and rolls his eyes. Oh, I keep doing it. The cowherd's rod he carries is his weapon to destroy whatever ills and evils wicked Kali can deploy. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. Unequaled in his love for Krishna, he's a vast abode of transcendental mellows only God has ever showed. For all his devotees he's everything, and for his wives, Shri Vasudha and Janova, he is their very lives. Since love for Krishna makes him mad, his actions may seem odd, and so the foolish fail to see that he himself is God. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. Most dear to Shachi's son, he is a reservoir of bliss. Throughout the universe he's worshipped with great happiness. Impelled by deep compassion when he sees the state they're in, he saves the people sinking fast in Kali's sea of sin by teaching them to chant the holy name with every breath, thus crushing the conceit of Durga's sea of birth and death. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. Now, when I refer to, oh brother, this is his brother, is Lord Chaitanya. He said, oh brother, Kali's now ascendant everywhere, increasing people's suffering. It's more than I can bear. Please give these fallen souls an easy process to attain the shelter of your lotus feet, the place beyond all pain. So then Lord Chaitanya answers, instruct them all to chant Shri Krishna's name, the Lord replied, to worship him with love and by his teachings to abide. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. So that instruction that he gave them, this is the instruction he gave to Haridas Thakur, and they went preaching throughout the streets of Navadvip. So that is Balo Krishna, Bhaje Krishna, Koro Krishna Shika, right? Just chant Shri Krishna's holy name, just chant Krishna's name and worship him with all your heart. Follow his instructions and to others them impart. So we can also take that instruction to heart. When you're imparting the other instructions, that's a book distribution. So what is so now he's taken that instruction, now he's instructing the people. So this brother, when he says, but this is small b brother, he's speaking to the different people that he preaches to. Oh brother, kindly chant Shri Krishna's name incessantly, and also teach this process to your friends and family. Thus cross the sea of birth and death, and be supremely blessed. Your liberation is the only alms that I request. Entreating thus to save the people from illusion's thrall, with arms upraised he went to every home throughout Bengal. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. He said, oh brother, no, I'm sorry, I just read that one. A new Agastya Muni. Now you have to know about Agastya Muni. There's two things you got to know. He was born from a pot, and he drank the sea. He drank the ocean one time. So they constantly use him in the analogy. A new Agastya Muni, with great force he drinks the sea of birth and death. How loving and compassionate is he! For all his devotees he is the best of rising moons, expanding wide the ocean full of transcendental boons, and for the many demons filling people's hearts with dread, he is the sun dispelling all the darkness that they spread. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. He wandered every path in Bengal. He wandered every path in Bengal, chanting Haribol, his dancing and his singing bringing joy to every soul. He put aside his own concerns to spread the holy name, thus mercifully fulfilling Sri Chaitanya's preaching aim. On seeing saintly devotees he felt great happiness, and with his mercy-laden glance he filled their hearts with bliss. O friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. Now that part about his putting aside his own concerns to spread the holy name, thus fulfilling Lord Chaitanya's preaching aim. He was with Lord Chaitanya in Puri, And he wanted to stay there. But Lord Chaitanya said, you can't stay here. I have to stay here because of my mother's order. I can't preach in Bengal. So you have to do it. So he surrendered to that, and he left with his Gopal associates, his whole team. And they wandered all the way back. Amazing pastimes. And then he went around in Bengal and did what is described here. Okay, this is the last one. He gently took his brother's, this is Lord Chaitanya, the brother. He gently took his brother's soft and graceful lotus hand, and as he looked upon his face, he felt his bliss expand. Chaitanya felt the same way as he looked upon the face of Nityananda, and he held him in a firm embrace. And then they started dancing through the streets of all the towns, their beauty filling every heart with joy that knew no bounds. Sorry. Oh, friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda Ram, the root of the bhakti tree. That's this painting behind me. That's where Lord Chaitanya and Nityananda are dancing throughout this together. Now here's the benefit. That's 8 verses. Here's the 9th verse. For Nityananda's devotees who relish mellow sweet, this poem is a precious nectar reservoir replete with endless waves and whirlpools of the sweetest, deepest love, beyond what even gods and goddesses are dreaming of. It has the power to deliver any fallen soul and place him at Sri Nityananda's feet, our final goal. May those who read these transcendental verses I impart forever see his lovely lotus feet within their heart. Oh, friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free, just worship Nityananda around the root of the bhakti tree. Now, just to give you a little background on this, I wrote this in Chaupati in 2005. I got to go there. A friend had inherited some money, and he paid my ticket to India. So we got there. We were on our way to Mayapur, and we were there about a week before. We got to arrive a week before Nityananda's appearance date. So it was great. Radhanath Swami was there. There was so many wonderful devotees, and I said, "Let me see if I can put this into a poem." And so I did. After a few days, I've got it down. And so I asked Maharaj if I could do it on Nityananda's appearance day. So I don't know if have you ever been to Chaupati? Yeah, so you know that Vyasasan with all the seats? You got Vyasa in case somebody of his god brothers come, so I'm sitting up there. I have a picture of it. And the place was filled, and I was doing this, and everyone was coming in on that last line, oh, friends entrapped in Kali's clutches, yearning to break free. So it was quite an experience. Well, we have a few more minutes, so I'm going to read a couple of random poems. First one is this one that I like to. I wrote this originally for Prabhupada's appearance day, Vyasa Puja. But then I tweaked it a little bit so it's appropriate for any day, because it was, Prabhupada, on this great day, that's Vyasa Puja, when you appear just like a ray of Krishna's vast effulgence bright, to give this blind world back its sight. O Prabhupada, we hail the day when you appear just like a ray of Krishna's vast effulgence bright, to give this blind world back its sight. We thank you from the bottom of our hearts and pray with deepest love that we may serve your lotus feet in every circumstance we meet. As years go by and books go out, we see what life is all about, to serve your mission and our Lord's by spreading wide your sacred words. As well, you want us all to strive to let those words direct our lives. This safest path will lead us home, no more in Maya's realm to roam. That's up on, half of it anyway, is up on the wall in the BBT. It's been there for years since I wrote it. About as years go by and books go out, we see what life is all about. So that's the book distributors' theme as well as the book producers. Yeah. Shikshastika. All right, I'll do it. We may not be able to finish it. That one I don't need this. All right. We don't have time for all the Sanskrit. I'll just do the first verse. Chaitodapanam arjanam bhavamahada bhagni nivapanam shreyakaida pachandrika patadanam vidya vadhu jivanam anandam pradivardhanam pradipadam purnamita swadanam sarvatmasnaparam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. All glories to the chanting of Shri Krishna's holy names, which easily extinguishes samsara's blazing flames by polishing the lust-encrusted mirror of the heart. That chanting is the waxing moon that knows the secret art of causing the white lotus of good fortune to unfurl its petals far and wide throughout this bleak and blighted world of transcendental knowledge which will take us to life's goal. The chanting of the name of Krishna is the life and soul. The ocean of ecstatic bliss floods far beyond its bounds, wherever Krishna's merciful and mystic name resounds. Indeed, whenever Krishna's names are sung in congregation, at every step one tastes a joy that knows no limitation. So hear with great attention as I earnestly request, please chant Shri Krishna's holy names and be supremely blessed. The soothing nectar of the name will bathe your consciousness, bestow pure love for Krishna, and eradicate distress. Krishna, Govinda, and Keshava, too, your names have no end, and in each of them you have invested your potencies, leaving none out. Whenever we want, we can chant them without the slightest restriction of time or of place. O Lord, who can fathom your infinite grace, yet I am so wretched, devoid of all shame, that I haven't developed a taste for your name. Trinadapi sunichena tadorapi sahishnana amanina amanadena kirtaniya sadari. More humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree. To think all praise belongs to others, none belongs to me. These qualities attract the Lord to bless one with the power to chant his name incessantly until the final hour. Wealth and women followers, the fruits of mundane piety, liberation from this world of limitless anxiety. For me, O Lord, these common goals have not the slightest worth. Let me serve you purely now and in each future birth. Your servant for eternity, I lost my true identity and fell into this horrid sea of birth and death, O Lord. O Nanda's son, please hear my plea. By your sweet grace consider me a speck of dust upon your lotus feet forevermore. Tears streaming from my eyes, my voice choked with bliss, the hair upon my body standing up in happiness. When will all these signs of rapture decorate my limbs as I chant your holy name, the monarch of all hymns? Every moment drags on like 1,000,000 years or more. From the rain clouds of my eyes the tears in torrents pour. This whole creation is nothing but a vast and joyless void. O Govinda, by your absence I am being destroyed. Let Madhava embrace this maid who's fallen at his feet. Oh, let him trample me, or my most ardent hopes defeat, by never giving me a chance to see him anywhere, thus shattering my heart and plunging me into despair. You see, he is a restless libertine and not a saint. So let him act in any way he likes without restraint. Yet though his cruel and crooked ways may cause me constant woe, Krishna is the only Lord my heart shall ever know. So that's the Shikshastika. We have 2 minutes. I'll give you the Palashuddhi verse, not by Lord Chaitanya, but by Krishna's Kaviraj. I don't have the Bengali. These 8 essential verses Lord Chaitanya wrote to teach the practice and the goal of chanting Krishna's holy name. Day by day, whoever sings this hymn will surely reach a little closer to perfection, spotless Krishna Prem. Okay, we have 2 minutes. Just random that I can remember. Madhudesh, all M's. Listen now. Madhudesh Madhudi Mayamadava Munadi Matallika Mugdha Mama Manana Mohana Modama Dayamanaso Maha Maha Moham. O Master of Mathura, lovely Lord of Goddess Shri, who plays such maddening melodies upon your Murali. O Cupid's charmer, please redeem in life till now misspent by joyfully destroying my extreme bewilderment. Okay. The clock hasn't moved. Time has stopped. Queen, yeah. No. We only have 1 minute now. Queen Kunti is one of my all-time favorites. Trayame ananda vishaya mati madhapate sakrit ratamun bhataradha gange baugamadandvati. O Madhu's Lord, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee, not any other kind. As Ganges torrent flows into the sea, let all my love flow constantly to thee. Muraram muradebhyopi mangalebhyopi mangalam pavanam pavanebhyopi hare namaiva kevalam. Of sweet things, the sweetest you will taste at any time. Of things that bring good fortune, it's the perfect paradigm. Of things that purify, it purifies most powerfully. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. From Brahma's realm atop the sky down to the lowly grass, illusion reigns in Mahadevi's treacherous morass. The truth, the only truth, the name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. He's the Guru, he's the Father, he's the friend most true. And she's the real mother who most kindly teaches you to always chant and hear the holy name of Shri Hari. The holy name of Shri Hari is surely all that be. Okay, we've run out of time. We'll continue that one next time. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hari Hari Bol. Okay, now they're on YouTube. See if I can get 1 million hits.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Dandavad Pranam.
Haribol. Dandavat pranams.
Thank you, Guru, for nice class and nice poetry. It's very inspiring.